We could be on the verge of major developments in the federal investigation into Florida Republican Matt Gaetz. Prosecutors have until Saturday to strike a plea deal with Gaetz associate Joel Greenberg and secure his formal cooperation. A law enforcement official confirms to NBC News that investigators are looking to talk to a former Capitol Hill intern who was on a 2018 trip that Gaetz took to the Bahamas. That trip is reportedly now a major focus of the federal probe. Gaetz is being investigated for possible sex trafficking and sex with a minor. He denies all allegations. We're back with Tim, Jason, and Claire. Claire, I'm going to ask you to put on your prosecutor hat. I mean, what would still be at issue? Are they running down Joel Greenberg's leads, trying to assess how valuable he could be? What is your sense of what could be happening?
Well, it's hard to guess what threads they're pulling. There could be financial crimes. Keep in mind the federal government has limited criminal jurisdiction. So they're going to have to be there has to be some money going across state lines, some communication going across state lines, taking a young woman across state lines that maybe wasn't of age. All of those things are relevant. And so that's probably why they're wanting to discuss what happened on the trip, who was on the trip, and what, if anything, Matt Gaetz knew about somebody who might have been underage. You know, this is a guy who his colleagues have said was showing them lewd pictures of women he was dating on the floor of the house. And they have done nothing against him. They're throwing Liz Cheney out, but they're down with their bro, Matt Gaetz, who is paying women under the age of 18 for sex. I mean, what has happened to the morals of this party? It is unbelievable to me that none of the Republicans are speaking out against this guy. I guess because he's Trump's guy.
Yeah, I mean, Tim, obviously in a court of law, Matt Gaetz is entitled to a presumption of innocence, but the Republican Party is about to, as Claire said, throw out Liz Cheney because she won't repeat a lie. And Matt Gaetz, fair game, totally welcome. Marjorie Taylor Greene and her QAnon whack job stuff, fair game. Come on in. We got plenty of room for you guys. And as Claire said, this is someone being investigated for sex with a child.
Yeah, you know, it is kind of interesting that the big theory of QAnon is that all of these leaders in Washington are engaging in sex trafficking, and yet Marjorie Taylor Greene isn't finding any dissonance there with her her new campaign buddy. Look, here they're showing this video right now. Matt Gaetz, you have to remember, went to Cheyenne and stood on the steps of the Capitol in Wyoming to harangue Liz Cheney and try to draw a line between his side of the party, the nationalist, the Donald Trump, the willing to lie, the anti-democratic side of the party, and Liz Cheney's side, somebody that wants to simply just stand up for democracy and do old school, traditional conservative stuff that, you know, you might agree with or disagree with. The party is about to vote overwhelmingly on the Gaetz side. So not only is he fine, yeah, but the entire caucus tomorrow is going to vote for him. You know, maybe 3, 4, 5 votes against him.
Yeah, and, you know, Jason, I used to think that Trump had this flattening effect. You know, an American president calling countries bleep hole countries had the same degree of sort of three-alarm fire as a, you know, legislative scandal. And they're not the same thing. I mean, one is a moral deficiency, a flaw that can't be fixed. But the Republican Party is no longer faced by those.
Well, and here's the thing, Nicole. It primarily, this is the scary campaigning part. It primarily falls upon Republican women. Because that's what Republicans used to be afraid of offending, quite frankly, from a strategic standpoint. The issue was cheating on your wife, those sorts of areas of moral turpitude was going to cost you the evangelical vote. It was going to cost you women Republican voters who are like, look, I can deal with this conservative stuff, but a marriage is supposed to be sacred. And the fact that we've had a party that basically, remember, Donald Trump, I'm going to grab women by the vagina. You have Brett Kavanaugh, who's basically some grotesque, you know, accused of being some grotesque date raping character from an 80s film all throughout his entire life, and they still voted for him. So I'm not surprised what's happening with Matt Gaetz right now. But what it's telling is the level of commitment that the Republican Party now has, that there is no section of the Republican Party, whether it's Republican women, whether it's evangelicals, who looks at the behavior and says, this is not aligned. But again, a party that has no problem with overthrowing the government is certainly going to have a problem with somebody overlooking moral laws about how you're supposed to treat teenagers.
Tim Miller, Jason Johnson, Claire McCaskill, I thank you all for speaking candidly, for speaking your minds. That's why you're all here. Thank you so much.